Hello, this is Nathan from Wisper, and today we're going to be talking about life after COVID. Um, COVID flipped a lot of people's worlds on their head, and it's hard to predict what's really going to happen. Some people say follow the money. Some people say, hey, this is comes around once 100 years. But we're going to spend some time, hopefully, on a little bit of discussion if people have questions about what does life look like after COVID. I'm going to look at kind of the short term, what does it look like, and then the long term. I've got some general notes up that I'm going to throw up on the screen. I've talked to lots of people and just trying to get everybody's kind of what their vibe is, right? Humans are very, very bad at predicting the future. So I don't want anybody to hold me to this, right? This is more of a conversation, kind of what I see, and maybe we can have some fun with it as well. So like I said, my name's Nathan Stuke. I'm the CEO of Wisper. This is our team now. This was about a year ago, and we've added probably 30, 40 people to that. And we're hiring people all day long, every day, as long as we possibly can to get as many people to ramp up for our growth that we're doing. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a large company. I wanted to have lots of employees. I love creating opportunities because we can. And those opportunities allow people to do things, whether it's the customer that then can take advantage of having internet where we are, or whether it's an employee that has no college education, but they have a great work ethic and an amazing attitude. And I want to make sure everybody kind of understands that I firmly believe that you define your success. And that's something that if you take nothing else away from here is that you define your success. If you define it, you will always be successful. But if you let someone else define your success, you will always be chasing something that isn't really yours and it isn't something that you want to be. So I would highly recommend that you figure out what you define as success and go from there. So now let's take a little bit of look at, life after COVID. We had a session a couple of weeks ago on, what are we doing, Wisper, and what have I heard other people are doing to combat. And it was just, man, there was one thing after another, and it seemed like information was changing every 2 hours. And now, fast forward a couple of weeks, it seems like people are kind of getting into their groove. Some people are fed up and they're like, you know what, I'm coming back into the office because as much as I love my dog, I'm coming in. I got to come into the office to see people or at least a change of scenery. But for the most part, we've gotten into our grooves and people are doing as well as they can. So what are some of the things that are going to change after COVID? Well, I think this first one is probably pretty realistic. I've got a couple birthdays coming up in my family. We will not be having birthday cake from anyone that blew out the candles, right? You're going to set up a smaller cake with all the candles for them to blow out, and then we'll eat the other cake because nope, can't have those germs going anywhere, even though it was okay. This other one is a little concerning, but I think it could definitely happen. It's going to be a lot easier to rob a bank, right? Everybody has to wear a mask. You can walk into any bank you want, and you would not look strange by wearing a mask. So now all of a sudden, it's going to be a lot easier to rob a bank for sure. The other thing I think that's going to change is that we're going to have more and better appreciation for teachers and what they put up with. My wife was a high school teacher, and I love this. Am I a horrible homeschool teacher? My child has been at recess since 9:30 a.m. Another one I saw that I thought was pretty funny was looking for a substitute teacher from now till the end of COVID homeschool. So not everybody's cracked up to be a teacher, and that's totally fine. Work in your strengths, but it's kind of been forced on all of us. And it's changed. I'm very fortunate and blessed that my kids are older, and yes, my boys may not be as motivated to do their homework as my daughter is, but when you turn off their Xbox, they tend to get a lot more motivated. So it's definitely one way to control it. I think another interesting that's going to happen is, just like we say Google, so go Google something. We don't say go search for it. You say go Google it. I think we're going to say let's have a Zoom meeting. Let's have a Zoom call. Let's have a Zoom meeting, even though we might be using Microsoft Teams or WebEx or something else. I think we're going to call it a Zoom meeting because that's the name that's stuck. And but video conferencing call is going to become the new mainstream. And for some of us, that's great. For some of us, it's bad. I found a little video online that I'm sure after a month and a half, 2 months of us doing this, we've all had a lot of experiences with our video calls. So let's go ahead and watch this. This is a video call in real life, and I think it was a great video to kind of show that kids running in and out, dogs barking, and everything happening, people getting dropped off is kind of the new norm. So I want to kind of look now at what Wisper's doing and what we're going to do like for the next 30 days. So we have kind of two things going on. We have a lot of operations in Missouri. That state has kind of lifted their stay-at-home ban. They've left it up to the counties. We only have a couple counties that are enforcing it. So our employees there are kind of getting back to normal. And then we have Illinois, which is on the other extreme. Unfortunately, Southern Illinois has to deal with Chicago rules and everything, and we're kind of on lockdown for quite a bit longer. But what we've decided to do as a leadership team is there is no reason for us to jump back in and say, hey, everybody come back together and let's go into the office. Things are working well for us right now, so we're going to hold tight. It happened in Hong Kong. It happened in a couple other Asian countries where they kind of let everybody come back together, and then the virus spread even more, and then they had to shut back down. So it does nothing to us to hold on for maybe another 2, 3, 4 weeks. We're going to reevaluate kind of on an every 2-week cadence to see, well, what's changed. Is it coming back together? Is that okay? What are we seeing? So we're going to keep the same procedures as we've had for the last month, and we're going to keep them going forward. The last thing we want to do is say, hey, okay, installers, everybody get together, and then one person has it, and now we've infected our whole crew, and now we can't do installs or we can't do service calls for our customers. So this is what we're looking at doing, and what we're kind of status quo, keep it the way it is, because we feel that we actually have quite a few of our processes down and working fairly well. So there's no reason to change that. I've asked lots of people. I asked my leadership team. I asked a lot of other Wisp owners, other business owners, kind of what do they think is going to happen over the next, between now and 90 days as we start to open things back up. And I thought what they said was kind of interesting, a scarcity of restaurant reservations. And at first I thought, well, is that because not all the restaurants will open back up? But what they mean is that if, there's restaurants in Florida right now that have unlimited outside seating, but inside seating is restricted to 25%. So if people want to get outside, one of the questions we ask all of our swimmers, my wife and I run a swim team. She's the head coach and does most of the heavy lifting. But, she asked, one of the questions as we were starting to get back to talking to everybody was, what restaurant do you want to go out to eat at? Or where do you want to go when we're allowed to leave the house again? So I think there will be a lot of people wanting to leave and go out, something they haven't been able to do. Yes, we've been able to do takeout or something, but it's a little different when you eat in the restaurant. They also said that they think that temperature being taken upon entering a business may become a standard thing. It's been kind of recommended by some of the lawyers and some of the different people who say, hey, employees coming into a business, you should take, before they go to work, they should have their temperature taken. You see all the pictures of, in airports where they're scanning people's foreheads to make sure they don't have a temperature. That may become a norm. I know when I went to our local grocery store the other day, it was the first day they required a mask. I didn't have one. I forgot about the new rule, and they turned me away and said I couldn't go in there. I know one of the hardware stores in our area, they sell a mask to you for $1 if you don't have one. I could totally see it going to the more extreme of, okay, now we're going to start taking your temperature and keeping you out of the building if you have any symptoms like that or the fever. You'll see masks being worn all over. In Illinois now, it is compulsory that you wear a mask. You have to wear it when you go out into a public place. You don't have to wear it in the car when you're by yourself or in your house, but you have to wear it when you go into public areas. At first, it was going to be whenever you couldn't maintain social distancing, but now it's at all times. So it's kind of interesting where some states are going hey, you can come back together, just don't have too many big parties and those things, and other states are kind of locking down even more. And I think it has to do with, how big of an area, is being affected. Obviously, we have Chicago and Illinois. A lot of the country is looking at New York and LA as to what's going on there. Another thing we kind of picked up on, and you start to see it proliferate, the marketing, is that, customers are paying attention to how businesses treated their employees. I've known of several businesses that laid off up to 25% of their staff, 100 people out of 400 people, and they told me that the owner was just very sad about it, and it just was horrible, and it was heartbreaking for him. And then I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. This company caters to the internet business. We're booming. We're adding as many customers as we possibly can. I haven't talked to a single internet provider that isn't doing upgrades or doing something with more people. That doesn't make much sense. And then when I found out, oh, it was only one division that they let most of the people go from, I think that's an opportunistic layoff. I don't think that was caused by the COVID virus. It was early on as well, before we knew how bad this was going to get. And I've seen other businesses that have done that as well. And I think people will take notice of that. I think they really will. There's some companies that are like, hey, I've got to put you on furlough for 2 weeks, and then I want you to come back once the work comes back. And there's other companies that are being very, very smart. Everybody's getting a reduction in pay until they can kind of figure out what's going on. I feel very blessed that we're in an industry that we're needed. We're very much needed. So we've been hiring as fast as we can and those things. But I know that's not the way it is for everybody. So, but I think people will be paying attention to that as to what's really happening. How are some of the airlines have been hit the hardest. Some of the restaurants, they had to actually close. They couldn't do takeout or whatever. And it's just interesting to see how people respond to the to having to not have any business or have to change how they do their business. And I think then, probably in the next 90 days, we're going to start seeing, if not even, not by the end of 90 days, but within 90 days, I think we'll understand the breadth of what happens when the customers can't pay. We've taken the FCC pledge to not shut people off. We did not take the pledge, and it doesn't say in the pledge that they don't have to pay us. It's just we will keep their internet on, and we will not charge them late fees. And then as they get back on their feet and as they find their jobs, we fully intend to have them pay us for the service they used. Why would we not? But we're going to be very understanding for that. But I think there's going to be a problem there where there'll be more and more people who have lost their jobs that can't pay. And then we'll have to deal with that. One of the things we did during the recession in 2008 is, if you called us and said, listen, I lost my job, I need my internet to go to school or look for a new job, we would ask if they canceled TV. And if they said yes, then we would give them 3 free months to get back on their feet. If they said no, we told them, well, that we feel that's a luxury. When I started Wisper, I canceled pay TV because I just couldn't afford it. When you cancel your TV, we'll give you free internet. And you may say, well, wait a minute, what's my right to tell somebody to go cancel their TV subscription? I have no right to. Maybe some people said they hung up and called right back in and said, yes, they canceled TV, and they didn't. That wasn't what we were going after. What we were trying to do is help people who were helping themselves. And if people were willing to go that extra mile and they were in a hard times, we wanted to go that extra mile with them. But I wanted to make sure I wasn't just giving a freebie out to everybody. And yes, they could have just done kind of a quick one on us, but that wasn't the intent. I know we helped people. I got emails from customers that said, thank you so much. I found a new job, and I'll be a Wisper customer forever, because we were very, very understanding of their situation. And I think that's what we're going to have to be moving forward. And that kind of goes back to the one above this, where customers paying attention to how business treat employees. I think they'll be paying attention to how we treat the customers as well, and what we do for that. I think another area that's going to be kind of interesting is this whole work from home. We went through our whole list of all of our employees, and we had several employees that thought they could never ever work from home. They needed to be here at the office, and well, lo and behold, when you're forced to do it, you figure out how to do it. Now, we had some employees that had to come in, our construction employees that were pre-building things, our field guys that their work has to be done out at a tower or something, and then our inventory people. But for the most part, we were able to get everyone else at home and work fairly well. It's interesting. Some people are more efficient and productive, but some people aren't. It's kind of interesting when you look at it. I know we have a fair number of single parents, and it's just really, really hard for them to corral the kids, especially when they have younger kids. I'm fortunate to have older kids, so they're a little bit more self-sufficient. But when you have younger kids at home, there's no daycare, there's nothing there's no school. We get it. It's very hard for them to be productive. And our customer service has suffered from that because, when we used to have 15 people be able to answer the phone, now we're down to about 10 or 12 people that can answer the phone. And that's become a big challenge because now everybody's calling us, right? When their internet isn't working at home or there's some problem, we're still at about 70%. The problem is inside the house, not our internet, but still they want to call in and talk to somebody. That's hard. We're low on manpower. We're allocating overtime. We're trying to hire, but even if we hired somebody today, there's still training that has to be done. So some people feel way more productive. And I wonder, one of the things we said was kind of interesting on our leadership team, and I've heard several other WISPs say this as well, that they feel more productive. But are they really more productive, or is it that hour you used to spend getting ready, and then the half hour you used to commute to the office, and then the half hour to commute back, is that really that you're just working 2 hours more per day, as opposed to that you're more productive? So it's interesting, and I think it has to do with the personality. If you're somebody who already travels around a lot and now you're home, you are going to be way more efficient in productivity because you're not spending all those airplane hours and everything. But it's definitely interesting to see how some people are more productive and some people aren't. I think another interesting thing with the working from home is that in order to work from home successfully, especially as a manager or somebody who deals with people, is you have to be a lot more prepared and a lot more purposeful. I had to have an employee meeting with an employee. It's one of the meetings and the topic I would have walked by their desk and been like, oh, hey, I wanted to ask you about this because I was interested in it. But I had to schedule a Zoom meeting, and they were like, oh, well, what is this about? And why do you have to schedule a meeting with me? Did I do something wrong? And it's like, no, I don't see you in the halls. So I can't just stop by and ask you a simple question. So you have to be a lot more purposeful about it. And I think what this whole COVID thing has taught us with all of this working from home and everything is that we can do a lot of things when we didn't think we could, but it's not necessarily better that working from home. I know there's been a lot of employees that have asked at Wisper to work from home, and I'm more of the person, I really, really like people to be in the office. I like having those chance meetings. I like having, oh, I overheard this, or hey, let's call a quick meeting to talk about something, and then you go back to your work or something. We get to meet them, we get to talk to them and see them more. That's just my personal feeling. But there's a lot of people who wanted to work from home, and it was interesting to see how we could get it done. And did it confirm my suspicions that I didn't like it, or did it validate the fact that maybe my suspicions were wrong and maybe it is actually good to have people work from home? And I think it's up to your personal preference. I know quite a few people that are begging to come back, because they have the kids and they have the dogs and they have the cats and they have the spouses, that it's just like, no, I can't get anything done at home. I have to come back into the office, or I like the social interaction with people. But then there's just as many people that work really, really well from home. But I think what you're going to see is there's going to be better KPIs, tracking how well employees are doing. Some jobs lead to that a little bit easier than others. It's a little bit easier to tell somebody's working if they're sitting in a cubicle in your office and you can walk by and you can hear their phone conversations and you can, kind of hear those things just, going by, you can tell they're doing work. Whereas when they're at home and you don't see them, it's a little harder. So I think smaller businesses are going to have to come up with better KPIs to figure out key performance indicators to figure out kind of how well are their employees working at home and what's going to be their policy going forward. I know my policy is still going to be you need to be in the office, and that's where I would prefer. And then if we have an odd case where we have to have it working from home, we'll do that. But I still stand firm to I like people to be in the office. So what's long term, right? So after COVID, what's long term? I think people are going to have contingency plans in place and a lot easier to execute on them based on this experience, right? So a lot of people are in the process of embracing video conferencing, but they didn't quite do it. Now we've all been thrust into you have to be able to do it. Now we had our first virtual all hands today. We had 59 people. I did forget to hit the record until about 10 minutes in it. But we had 59 people out of our 120 some odd plus employees were able to make it. We went over different things for the company, and that's something that we've been asking ourselves is, could we do a virtual meeting? One of our problems with our all hands is not everybody can be there. even though it's an all hands, it was more geared to people in our Mascoutah office, our main office. But we proved today that it actually worked out really well. I was able to share a video. We were able to do things. We had sound on that video, but we were able to do that, and it worked. It worked very well. I was very pleased. We got a lot of good feedback from people. The other thing I think I've seen in just my relatively short life on Earth is that people are forgetful. I think once we come up with a vaccine, once we do that, I think people will be like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just something you get a vaccine for, and they'll tend to forget what happened, and they'll wait for the next pandemic to come around and everything. But for the most part, we tend to be a very forgetful society, which is probably good in some ways and bad in some ways. But we'll go back to normal. I think you'll have, your food delivery will become way more popular, right? Those services were starting to get popular and people were starting to use them, but now they were forced to. They'll find out, wow, this is really convenient. I don't want to cook tonight, and I don't want pizza. So, oh, this is awesome. I can have this food delivery. It was well worth my money to have them bring it to me. I think you'll see new industries kind of popping up, but for the most part, we will forget. But we will latch onto those things that we either enjoyed or liked and had part of that experience that we were forced upon us. The other thing that I'm actually really concerned about, I've never been a big believer in vaccines. I know they serve their point, and I get that. I don't ever get a flu shot. I believe it personally just makes me feel sicker than if I get one. But I'm concerned that with all this cleaning and all this sterilizing and everything that we're doing on a grand scale, what happens to those germs and bugs that don't die, right? What happens to the viruses that don't die? Because when we sterilize, then they mutate and become even stronger. And then we're already seeing it happen with antibiotics, where the antibiotics aren't as effective anymore because they become immune to different things. So I'm wondering, how much sicker are we going to be, let's say, next winter? When that typically is when people are sick, how much is that going to affect us? And time will tell. We'll have to figure out how that looks. But that's something that's concerning to me, is that, we cleaned everything, we vaccinated, and maybe it's just because I don't know, I like to get my hands dirty, and I don't, I was a kid, boy, we grew up eating dirt and we were just fine. Maybe now we've become a little too clean freaks about it, and we might have some repercussions. But those are just some of the things that I kind of thought of, and in talking to other people, it was interesting to get people's take on it and what they kind of thought. I don't know if we have any questions or anything like that from anybody that we can talk about some specific things on kind of what maybe my views are, or some other people's views are that I've talked to about different questions. Biggest business COVID takeaway so far. Two of them come to mind, if you'll let me do two. I know the question was what was my biggest, but I really want to do two. One, holy freaking cow, you better have a backup plan, and you better have some reserves. I would hate to be out of business because I was living paycheck to paycheck. My business was living paycheck to paycheck. You need a rainy day fund, that because even though we thought, oh, that'll never happen, oh, we don't need that or whatever, I feel for the businesses that have had to go out of business. We've had several in our area that are like, nope, we're not opening back up. We're done. This was the nail in the coffin. There's nothing we can do. And I really think that that's something that, as a family, we need to have our contingency plan and our backup fund. And then as a business, you need to have it as well, because you don't know what's happening or what's going to come down the line. And yes, these pandemics hopefully only come around 100 years, but we don't know what that looks like. And something could happen, and you can make much better decisions if you have long-term plans. The other takeaway is that, you can make a lot of things work. And I kind of look at this and say, okay, what's the new normal? We were operating our business this way. We got completely flipped upside down, and now we're having to operate this way. Well, maybe I don't want to go back to 100% of the way we were operating. Maybe we were doing things because we said, oh, that video conferencing will never work. It doesn't fit our company. Or, we need all of our employees to come into the office. We can't have them be out in the field where they, where they live and where our customers are. Oh, but maybe we can. Maybe there's things we can do to make our employees' lives better and our customers' lives better. So I would say that I've learned with the COVID is challenge the status quo. Really, really challenge it, and not don't say you can't do something. You can't do something because you've said you can't. But if you think about it long and hard, you might be able to figure out a different way to do things. And COVID has forced us to do that. And those businesses that are pivoting and pivoting well are doing well, and the ones that aren't or can't aren't doing as well. So I think that's a great question. Let's see if we have any more. Okay, so recommendations on how you can go above and beyond for your teams. That's something that I've always believed in. I believe my biggest asset at Wisper is our employees. No question. It's not me. It's not the technology we use. It's not even the customers. It's our employees. And like I mentioned, we have several employees that are single parents, and they were just extremely stressed out and so concerned that, if I'm helping my child with homework and I don't get to a phone call, what am I going to get in trouble for it or whatever? And, while I need our employees to work, we're very understanding. So we set up different times where, okay, well, could you work earlier in the morning and then take a break during lunch, maybe an extended lunch break, maybe a 2-hour lunch break or 3 hours to help your kids, and then come back and do work later on in the evening to try to catch up on calls. It's a real balancing act because you have a need of the company, but really the long term, the infinite mindset that I have is that long term, I want those employees to be viable. I know they need to be there with their family, and I always choose family first, and that's what we want them to be able to do. So that's something that we've been able to do. The other thing that we kind of went above and beyond is we were already planning on doing this, and I know it's unique to our business decisions and where we are, kind of our situation, but we were planning on giving some raises. We hadn't given raises in a while, and what I mean, some like raises for the vast majority of the company. And when COVID hit, we honestly did have the discussion. Are our employees just thankful that they have a job? I know I'm thankful that I have a job in a business that isn't as affected by this. But we thought, well, maybe we could hold off, right? Maybe we hold off 6 to 9 months and don't have to give those raises, because now our employees' mindset has shifted to, I'm just thankful to have a job, as opposed to I deserve a raise or I should get a raise. But we made the decision that we were going to go through with the raises anyway. And I know not all companies can do that, because this is not the time you want to be spending cash, especially if you're very, very close with what's going on and you're greatly affected by it. But we chose to go through with those, and that was something that we did to be able to go above and beyond and say, hey, not only do we appreciate you working for us, and we're thankful for having a job, we're going to be able to do raises, and we stuck with that plan that we were doing. We didn't pull back from that. And the other thing I think you can do is just be intentional about reaching out. I kind of joked about having to have a Zoom meeting with somebody, and they got all tense and like, oh, the CEO has to have a Zoom meeting with me. What's it about? But we have a happy hour every Friday. It's just a, hey, everybody can get on, and just whoever can make it, great. Whoever can't, that's okay. We do that. But then also just be intentional about making sure you're connecting with your employees. Sometimes they're down in, they're not seeing everybody, and they need to see people and want to hear from you. So be intentional about it, and make sure you reach out to them. So we'll see. I guess I don't know if you guys saw my iTunes pop up, because I clicked my little screen. But yeah, it was kind of, I felt like I was back in that video call. At least the music didn't start playing. So any other questions we have? Those were two really, really good ones. Okay. Well, perfect. Well, I appreciate everybody chiming in. Hopefully this was helpful for you. The last bit of advice I'll wrap up and give you is, please don't be this person. You don't need to go use your mask and rob a bank. We all will get through this together, and hopefully things will turn out better for you after this is all over. But tune in next week. We're going to talk some about leadership. I know I already talked about leadership before, and we kind of had a leadership part 1 and part 2, but I'm going to take a step back, and I'm going to do a part 0. I know I said that leadership is a choice,
But I'm going to talk about how do you make that choice, right? What is that choice you're making, and how do you prepare yourself to make better choices? We're going to kind of take a step back and go even further backwards in leadership and pre-leadership as to what you need to do to help try to be a better leader. So hopefully you'll join me for that, and we'll have a good time talking about some of that. So thank you very much for chiming in, and be safe and stay healthy.